Welcome back to Northern Tales, where powerful stories of women from northern Nigeria come alive. If you're new here, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a story. In our last episode, Bilkisu's world of gold and silence was shaken by a knock on the door. Tonight, we discover who stood behind it. Let's continue. For a long moment, Bilkisu could not move. The figure at her doorway was both familiar and foreign, older, grayer, broader in the shoulders, yet his eyes, those deep, searching eyes, were exactly as she remembered them. Gidado, she whispered, her voice trembling. He smiled, the kind of smile that carried 100 unspoken years. Yes, Bilkisu, it's been a long time. Her fingers tightened around the edge of the door. Memories rushed at her. The dusty schoolyard in primary school. The love letter he once wrote to her, which he had hidden inside her Quran for years, until life's storms swept away such things. He was her very first love. Long before Sarki came into the picture, he had left to live with his uncle in Bauchi when he was in primary five. She stepped aside slowly. Come in, she said, her tone unsure but polite. He entered quietly. He was wearing a white kaftan, crisp at the edges. She noticed his watch, a Rolex, and designer shoes. She was always particular about such details in men, because that has been her husband's treasures. He will say, "You can tell a man's status by his accessories." The house felt, the house felt quiet, and the silence was thick between them. "You haven't changed much," he said softly, looking around. "Still elegant, still Bilkisu." She gave a faint laugh, one that cracked at the edges. 30 years ago, Gidado, you disappeared. No letters, no calls. We thought you were gone for good. He nodded, his face shadowed with reflection. "I wanted to stay in touch, but shortly after I left, I heard you got married, and I moved to America after university. The life there swallowed me. I thought I'd come back sooner, but 1 year became 5, then 20. He paused. "I heard about Sarki. I am sorry." The mention of her late husband's name stirred something bitter in her throat. She nodded, then looked away. "Yes, it was Allah's will. He was a good man." Gidado studied her for a moment, the fine lines at her eyes, the faint stiffness in her movements, the guarded tone in her voice. "I can see you have lived a full life," he said gently. "But you look lonely, Bilkisu." Her eyes flashed. "Lonely? What makes you say that? This house, this life, is it not enough for me?" He smiled sadly. "Enough is not the same as full." Silence again. Outside, the wind rustled through the neem trees. The scent of harmattan dust floated through the open windows, carrying whispers of the past. She finally asked, "Why did you come?" He looked at her directly, his expression unguarded. "I came because I never stopped thinking about you. I don't know what I expected. Maybe just to see you once more before I leave again. I have done well in life, Bilkisu, but I never married. Maybe I was a fool, but no one ever fit where you once stood." Her heart thudded. The words hung between them like incense smoke, delicate yet dangerous. "You shouldn't say that," she said quietly. "We were children then." "Maybe," he replied, "but the memory of you grew with me. When I built my house in Yola, I thought of you. How you used to talk about verandas and white courtyards when I succeeded. I wish you could see it." Bilkisu's eyes softened, her defenses crumbling. For the first time in years, someone spoke to her not as Senator Sarki's widow, but as the proud Bilkisu, but as a woman who had once been loved and left behind. She sank into a chair, her voice barely above a whisper. "After Sarki died, everyone left. The house is full, but it feels empty. I used to think it was jealousy. Now I think it was me." Gidado stepped closer, his voice low. "You can't change the past, Bilkisu, but you can decide how you want the rest of your story to sound." Tears welled in her eyes. She turned away, hiding them with the scarf. I don't know how to begin again, she said. He smiled gently. Then let's start with tea. Make it the way your mother used to, strong, with ginger. I remember people coming to greet your father in Ramadan evenings just to get a taste of that tea. A small laugh escaped her, fragile but real. Some things never change, she said. As she walked towards the kitchen, as she walked towards the kitchen, she caught her reflection in the hallway mirror. And for the first time in years, the woman looking back didn't seem entirely alone. As Bilkisu moved toward the kitchen, Gidado let his eyes wander across the lavish sitting room, the gold curtains, the marble floor, the silence that echoed wealth without joy. He smiled faintly. Yes, he thought. This was the kind of place that could feed a man's luck again. Behind that calm face, the truth of Gidado's story was nothing like the picture he had painted. Yes, he had gone to America, full of dreams and ambition. Yes, he had tasted well, but it had not come from hard work or business. It came from lies, from fake investment schemes and stolen identities. And when it all came crashing down, he had spent 7 long years in prison. His business is fraud. He had perfected his fraud so much and has duped many women, especially vulnerable women all over the world. After his prison time in America, he was deported back to Nigeria and banned from entering US. His family in Yola refused to take him in, ashamed of his disgrace. So he drifted to Lagos, a man living on borrowed names and borrowed time. He has joined a gang of Yahoo boys defrauding people. But this Bilkisu will be his biggest hit in Nigeria. When he saw Bilkisu's photo online with the caption, Widow of Senator Sarki, mourned by family, that was enough. He didn't need to think twice. Now, as she returned with a tray of tea, he stood to receive her like a gentleman. Still the best aroma in the world, he said, inhaling deeply as she poured. She smiled faintly, almost shyly. It's been a long time since anyone complimented my tea. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. I told you, I came home quietly. I didn't tell anyone, not even my people. They are wicked, Bulkisu. I hear they even divided my father's land amongst themselves. The world is cruel when you have no one. Of course, he did his homework. He heard about the dispute between Bilkisu and her family, so he wanted to lean in on that. She sighed softly. You're not the only one, Gidado. When Sarki died, people changed. Even my own blood turned against me. He nodded slowly, pretending to share her pain. That's why Allah brings certain people back into our lives. Maybe to remind us that we are not alone. The words landed softly like comfort, but behind them was calculation. He was studying her, her loneliness, her generosity, her need to feel trusted again. As the evening darkened, he looked around and said quietly, I didn't book any hotel. I came straight from the airport to see you. I'll fall somewhere tomorrow, inshallah. I just didn't want anyone to know I was back. Without hesitation, she said, you can stay here in the boys' quarters. It's empty. Besides, we have two empty service apartments here. The boys' quarters she was talking about is the same place she has once chased Halima and her family from. He shook his head at first, just long enough to seem modest. Then, after a pause, he said softly, if you insist, I will, but only for a few days. I don't want people to start talking. She smiled faintly. Let them talk. People always talk. Before he left for the night, he reached into his pocket and brought out a small stack of crisp new bills, $100 notes that gleamed under the chandelier. He placed them gently on the glass table between them. This is $5,000, he said gently. Use it for Sadaka in Sarki's name. Let it bring peace to his soul and blessings to you. Her eyes widened. Kidado, this is too much. I can't take it. He raised his hand quickly, almost piously. Please, I have more than I need. Let this be between us and Allah. The gesture silenced her. For years, people had come to her for help, for favors, for money, but no one had given her anything, not even kindness. Now someone had offered not just money but attention, the kind that looked her in the eye. Thank you, she whispered. As she walked him to the door, he smiled again, the same gentle smile that once made her blush. Sleep well, Bilkisu, he said. I feel at peace already. She watched him disappear into the darkness towards the boys' quarters. The evening wind tugged at the curtains, carrying faint echoes of the past. And though she could not see his face in the shadows, Gidado's smile had already changed, no longer gentle but satisfied. He whispered underneath his breath, some doors open too easily. Days turned into weeks, and Gidado settled quietly into the boys' quarters. Every evening, his voice filled the house with stories, wild tales of his life in America. He told Bilkisu how he once owned a ranch in Texas with horses that ran free under the golden sun. He claimed he had businesses, accounts abroad, and a mansion in Atlanta that he only rented out to keep it from getting dusty. To Bilkisu, the stories felt like oxygen. After months of silence, finally made her laugh again, even if it was just for a moment. She didn't love him, not truly, but she craved for what he brought into her empty world, the warmth, the conversation, the illusion of being wanted. For so long, she had been defined by loss and gossip. Now she was seen, desired, and needed. So when Gidado said softly one night, Bilkisu, I believe Allah brought us back together for a reason. Let's make it halal. Halal. Let's get married. She didn't hesitate. Her mourning period had ended long ago, and she was tired, tired of being alone, tired of pretending. The next morning, she called her oldest child, Mahmoud, who was studying in Sudan, and told him about Gidado and her intention to marry him. Mama, Mahmoud shouted, how can you even think about marriage so soon? And to a man that you barely know. Mahmoud, she snapped, I have done my part for all of you. I have lived my life alone long enough. I deserve happiness too. When he tried to reason with her, she flared up, accusing him of selfishness, of not understanding a woman's loneliness. It didn't end there. Mahmoud called his uncle, his father's brother. His uncle came to the house that same afternoon, determined to talk sense into her. He spoke gently at first. Bilkisu, nobody is saying you can't remarry, but not now. You need to heal first. Let time pass. People are still mourning your husband. But as he spoke, Gidado appeared in the background, arms folded, face hardening with each word. Bilkisu's tone turned sharp. You think I need your permission? You all left me when Sarki died. Now that someone wants me, suddenly you care. He looked at Gidado in shock. Is he living in this house? He asked. Gidado stepped forward. Then, his voice calm but dangerous. Alhaji, maybe you should leave. A woman knows what her heart wants. It's not your place to interfere. Within this, the entire family got involved. Her own mother, Fadima, came in tears, pleading with Bilkisu. Bilkisu, my child, don't do this. This man is not who he says he is. Give yourself time, at least to know him again. But the woman who once trembled before her mother's anger now stood like stone. You all think you can control me. You are jealous, all of you. You have cursed my children. That's why they have turned against me. The room erupted. One of her brothers nearly lunged at Gidado, shouting that he was a fraud. And the once respected widow of Senator Sarki stood before her family and screamed at them to leave. And when her brother refused, she did the unthinkable. She called the police. Minutes later, sirens pierced the quiet neighborhood. The officers escorted her family out, including her weeping mother, who looked back one last time before being shoved into a waiting car. Behind the scenes, Mahmoud and his uncle, Senator Sarki's brother, decided they could no longer leave things to chance. They quietly gathered all the wealth and properties belonging to the children, the houses, the farmlands, saving accounts, and business shares that Sarki had left in their names. They transferred and secured everything legally, fearing Bilkisu might squander or give them away under Gedado's influence. When she discovered this, Bilkisu erupted like a storm. She accused her son of betrayal, but her brother-in-law of theft, and her entire family of conspiring against her. You all think I'm a fool, she screamed. Keep what belongs to the children. I don't need it. I have my own money, my own inheritance, gifts I have collected from many political allies of my husband. Everything I worked for. I was wealthy before any of you lifted a finger. And she wasn't lying. Over the years, Bilkisu had quietly amassed her own fortune from political allies, favors, gifts that never reached her husband's desk, and countless acts of shrewd savings. She had money tucked away in multiple accounts, land in her own name, and enough to live comfortably for life. Now she used that as her weapon. She disowned all her children, every one of them, swearing that none of them will ever step into her house again. That same evening, as the Muazzin called to Maghrib echoed through the air, Bilkisu sent for the Imam from the nearby mosque. Inside the grand sitting room, beneath the chandelier that once lit political dinners, she and Gidado sat side by side, with witnesses from the mosque and the security man and the houseboy in the house as the nikah rites were performed for her and Gidado. When it was over, Gidado smiled, his eyes glittering like whetstones. He kissed her forehead and whispered, "Now, my queen, our stories begin." Outside the Hamatan wind blew through the compound, sweeping away the last traces of her family's footsteps. And that's where we end the, this chapter. Sometimes loneliness opens the door and love walks in wearing stranger's face. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And join us next as Bilkisu's new marriage